For millions of years, a magnificent animal dominated the northern hemisphere. Thriving on lush Ice Age grasslands, huge herds spread across continents. The mammoth shared a common ancestor with today's elephants. The two species diverged 5 million years ago. But while the elephant has survived, this creature succumbed to extinction. What killed off the mammoth? Nature? Man the hunter? Or something even more destructive? This is the new frontier of mammoth paleontology. Not Siberia, but Mexico City. Here, discoveries are challenging the two heavyweight theories, climate change and human hunting, that have long been invoked in the passionate debate on the demise of the mammoth.
I can imagine mammoths as very noble animals, and to me, to imagine this completely different landscape only 11,000 years ago is quite amazing. I want to find out more, and I want to find out why they died.
Geologist Sylvia Gonzalez lives in Liverpool, but is Mexican by birth. She's returned to Mexico City to study one of the most revealing mammoth graves in the world. This dusty suburb called Toquila seems an unlikely setting for an important archaeological investigation. But in 1996, workmen laying foundations for a new cantina hit something buried 15 feet underground. Archaeologists quickly uncovered over 1,200 bones of what can only be a doomed family group of 7 mammoths.
Toquila is a very important site because we have like an instant photograph of the environment 11,000 years ago, which is preserved.
These remains have been carbon dated to 11,000 years old, the very time when mammoths disappeared. So studying this site is vital to discover if climate change or human hunting wiped out the mammoth. Mammoths are usually associated with the deep freeze of the Siberian steppes. But the American or Columbian mammoth, as scientists classify it, was an even more impressive animal. It weighed almost twice as much as its woolly Siberian cousin. An adult male could stand 13 foot high and boast spiral tusks over 10 feet long. The basin of Mexico in the late Ice Age. Average temperatures are 10 degrees Celsius, some 5 degrees cooler than today. The Toquila family are on the move. They have the characteristic sloping back and domed head of their species, but their hairy coat has thinned out to adapt to the relative heat of the Americas. Like elephants today, our family migrates hundreds of miles every year to seek out the best places for grazing. They live for up to 70 years and spend 2/3 of every day feeding on grass to sustain their 10-ton bulk. Here at Toquila, the scattered bone bed confirms that Columbian mammoths lived in small family herds. There are the bones of an infant, and this 50-year-old female is believed to be the matriarch who led the group.
We know that elephants living today are very social animals, And we can extrapolate that information, imagine that these mammoths were very sociable as well. And in fact, the evidence from Tukwila is telling us that, because we have the social structure of the herd preserved there.
Adult mammoths were impregnable tanks of the plains, but their young took up to 15 years to reach full size and were vulnerable to the Ice Age's most powerful predators. The Tukwila family stick together to provide protection. But danger is never far away. A saber-toothed tiger notices the infant has strayed from the herd. The infant runs for its life. The herd is quickly mobilized to form an impenetrable defensive wall. Working together, the herd has little to fear from even the fiercest predators. Yet catastrophe did catch up with this family. How did they end up in this mass grave? Was their death tied up with the extinction of the entire species? At first sight, it would seem more likely that they were killed by a specific local event, because they're buried in volcanic mud.
This is a piece of pumice, volcanic glass, and we know that all of these mammoths are embedded in this material. So this is the evidence for a volcanic mud flow.
Soil deposits reveal that Popocatépetl volcano, only 12 miles from Tukwila, was active 11,000 years ago. Were the mammoths killed by a volcanic eruption? The chaotic nature of the bone bed makes Sylvia skeptical.
The main reason to believe that they were not killed by the volcano and the subsequent mud flow is because if that was the case when the animals were alive, you should find the whole complete animal, and in the side we only have bits and pieces of the body.
This must mean the Tukwila mammoths were dead already, their carcasses decaying and easily shattered when the volcano hit them. So the question remains, what killed them in the first place? When it comes to the extinction of the mammoth, one of the heavyweight theories has pointed the finger at climate change. Carbon dating of American finds reveals the number of mammoths dropped as the Ice Age ended and the world warmed up. 20,000 years ago, temperatures started to rise. They rose some 7 degrees Celsius, transforming the American environment. Pollen samples reveal that the grasslands of the American Southwest gave way to the desert of thin scrub and cacti that remains today. The mammoths there could not sustain their diet, and many would have died out. But as a geologist, Sylvia Gonzalez believes the high altitude near Mexico City made it a special case. Soil samples here show it was a kind of oasis.
The basin of Mexico 11,000 years ago was the perfect habitat for these animals. It was a very lush and rich landscape, plenty of grass for them to eat, and was a kind of mammoth Shangri-La.
Climate change couldn't have killed every mammoth. It certainly doesn't solve the particular mystery of Tukwila. Scientists have been forced to consider another possibility. No one knows precisely when people first colonized the Americas, but by 12,000 years ago, archaeological sites proved they had spread all the way from Arctic Canada to the tip of South America. If the basin of Mexico was a refuge, a Shangri-La in the desert, man would compete to have a piece of it too. Here was a new, sophisticated predator for the Colombian mammoth to contend with. Did man destroy the mammoths at Toquila? The mammoth thrived for millions of years and spread from southern Europe through Siberia all the way to Central America. But what caused the extinction of this well-adapted giant? Today, it's in Mexico that cutting-edge research is uncovering new clues that shed more light on the traditional theories about what killed the mammoth. In this mammoth graveyard, paleontologists are finding evidence of man's presence.
This is one of the bones that potentially are showing the interaction between humans and mammoths. Over here you can see this sharp edge, and it's possible that humans were breaking the bone to make use of this kind of resource.
The best-known early humans who entered the Americas are known as the Clovis people, after the site in New Mexico where their culture was first uncovered. They had developed a new technology, the fluted flint spear point. These have been found amongst mammoth bones at a handful of sites. For many American archaeologists, there was only one conclusion. Clovis man hunted the mammoth to extinction across the entire continent. The circumstantial evidence seemed compelling. Man arrived just as the mammoth population went into steep decline. But later research calls into question this traditional hunting theory. Paleontologist Eileen Johnson is an expert in bone forensics. Such is the importance of Toquila that she's come from Texas to determine whether this mammoth herd was hunted down by man.
This looks like a tibia that's coming out. This bone was broken fresh. We have really nice helical fractures, and that's kind of the evidence we have here as part of that circling fracture.
For Eileen, the distinctive helical fractures indicate Clovis man was present, breaking these bones sharply to make tools.
Oh, this is a beautiful fracture surface here. This may even be a remnant of the blow, the initial blow.
To test her theory, Eileen tries to replicate the bone fractures she's identified. She uses modern cow bones and a primitive yet effective technology.
And we're going to do a one anvil over the shoulder technique on this one. So you need to hold the femur here so it's steady. You need to come up and take your hand back as far as you can. And then you want to see where you're going to hit it. And then you want to bring the rock down as hard and as fast as you can. Okay, try again, because you've cracked it. Very good. Very, very good. That's a beautiful helical fracture. The force coming down through the hammerstone actually flexes the bone, and you get a rebound action that helps continue that fracture. So basically, they understood physics. Good.
Clovis people splintered mammoth bones to make tools, but that does not necessarily mean they killed the mammoths.
That's a beautiful technological flake coming out.
To clinch the hunting theory, Eileen would need to find direct evidence of Clovis weapons being used.
At the moment, we have no projectile points, nothing that, no stone tools of that nature. So we cannot say that man played a direct role in the killing of these animals.
Of the 1,500 mammoth sites across North America, just 60 contain any evidence of the presence of man. Of these, only a dozen contain Clovis spear points, proof of hunting. The remainder merely have scavenged broken bones, showing man only made use of them when the mammoths were already dead. The orthodoxy of hunting as a cause of extinction is increasingly being questioned.
When Paleo-Indian studies were beginning in this country, Clovis peoples were looked at as simply mammoth hunters. We're now beginning to move into a much broader view. They hunted horses, they hunted camels, they hunted smaller game, muskrat, ducks, a variety of animals made up their diet.
If Clovis man could sustain himself on animals that were easy to hunt in the lush basin of Mexico, why risk attacking a mammoth? Simple logic makes large-scale hunting of mammoth herds unlikely. The evidence suggests we should rethink the relationship between man and mammoth. Neither climate change nor hunting can provide a full explanation for the mammoth's demise. Evidence like that at Tukwila forces scientists to think again. Amongst the bones, there may be one new lead. This set of lower molars is unusual. While the right side shows healthy normal growth, the left is misshapen and warped.
When you examine the molars, they look deformed, and in other sites as well, not only Tukwila, shows us that there are some malformations of the spine, again, malformations of the molars. So there is evidence that they were under stress. And we need to find out what exactly is this stress.
A completely new theory about the mammoth's extinction comes from thousands of miles away and from a different branch of science.
Previously, there were two ideas as to what caused the extinction of mammoths, either climate change or hunting by humans. And now there's a new idea, one that blames humans but in a less direct, more subtle way.
Peter Datchak is not a paleontologist, but a New York-based virologist. His research has brought world attention to bear on a disease so virulent it crosses species barriers and is currently rendering entire populations of frogs extinct. He now believes disease may also have wiped out the mammoths.
If we think about the diseases that we worry about as humans, diseases like flu, these are really diseases of other animals. These are chicken viruses mixing with pig viruses and then infecting humans. AIDS originally, if we believe the current research, came from chimps in Africa. It's very easy for these viruses to jump from one host to another and then expand their range.
Virologists used to believe that a virus would not kill off its host. But Peter has shown that when a disease jumps the species barrier, the result can be more devastating than ever imagined.
As a disease moves into a population that's never experienced it before, either recently or in history, it has no immune response to this pathogen and it can be wiped out very quickly. And this may well be the scenario that allowed a pathogen to wipe out populations of mammoths in North America.
This theory, known as hyperdisease, may help explain the signs of stress evident amongst the Tukwila bones. It also fits with the timing of man's arrival and the decline of the mammoths.
The point about these mammoth populations is that they've never experienced humans before. Humans moved into what are known as naive populations, so they had no defenses, and the diseases were quite capable of wiping them out completely.
Back in Mexico, the idea of disease wiping out a population has a special poignancy. When the Spanish conquistadors encountered the Aztecs in the 16th century, the measles and flu they brought with them had more devastating effect than gunshot and sword. But the Aztecs and Spanish met at close quarters. How could Clovis man get close enough to mammoths to transmit disease? Not man, but man's best friend may provide the answer. Clovis man brought the dog to North America. Dogs could carry rabies and distemper that are known to cross species barriers.
As we introduce species like domestic dogs, we also introduce the viruses and the pathogens that these dogs carry. So we spread disease that way. We call this process pathogen pollution, and that's one of the greater implications of the work that we've been doing.
Dogs also transmit disease through fleas.
It may have been that diseases were able to jump host from dogs via fleas into a larger mammal like a mammoth. And certainly as humans moved throughout the North America, dogs would have been able to make close contact with wildlife. And this happens all over the planet right now.
Hyperdisease is a compelling new theory, and virologists are extracting DNA from mammoth bones, looking for sequences that indicate they encountered anthrax, distemper, or herpes. The extinction of the mammoth is one of the most controversial mysteries in paleontology. Climate change and man cannot fully explain it. Now it is time to consider the role of disease in prehistory. In the age of AIDS and Ebola, the bones of Toquila may be a timely reminder that we must take disease seriously as a possible cause of extinction for any species.
We now know for sure that diseases are capable of wiping out species, and that's a very significant step forward. We really need to use that information to look at how other species became extinct.
The series continues next Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And don't forget, Irish elk and mammoth expert Dr. Adrian Lister will be answering your questions online now at channel4.com/talk. The video, priced $12.99, and 2 books, Extinct, priced £20.